towing capacity, payload, pin weight, GVWR, GCWR, axle ratings. What does it all mean? How do you figure out how to pair a fifth wheel with a tow vehicle, with a truck? In this video, we're going to give you all the answers. This is RV Miles. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Today's video is inspired by a question we keep getting since we debuted our new 37 RV Miles fifth wheel collaboration with Sabre. We've been getting lots of questions about whether someone's truck can tow this fifth wheel. And in those questions, I'm seeing lots of hints of misunderstanding or uncertainty about what a fifth wheel's pin weight is and how it relates to what your truck can tow, or more accurately, your truck's payload rating. So today's video is going to cover some real basics for beginners about pairing a truck with a fifth wheel. But if you already own a fifth wheel or you're well versed in towing, there may be a few nuggets of information in here you hadn't thought of before. We'll get into all that in a moment, but first, if you're buying a new truck to tow with, you're going to want to check out the sponsor of today's video, eTrailer.com, and specifically their new fitment guides for 2025 vehicles. eTrailer's expert guides help you answer questions like, will my old roof rack work with my new ride? Or how do I make sure I'm ready to tow on day one? Transitioning to a new vehicle shouldn't mean starting over with your gear. And that's why eTrailer's ready with 2025 fits for the products you know and trust. Their team of enthusiasts has done the work test fitting your favorite products on 2025 vehicles and creating detailed content to show exactly how it all works. With tailored solutions and real-world insights, they're here to make sure your next adventure starts smoothly. So whether you're already driving your 2025 truck or planning ahead, or if you got an older truck, eTrailer is here with the gear, advice, and confidence you need to hit the road without hesitation. Visit the link in the description to head directly to eTrailer's Vehicle Finder to find custom fit accessories for your specific vehicle and more. All right, so if you're a new fifth wheel owner or a prospective fifth wheel owner, you may only have experience with conventional travel trailers, or maybe you've never towed before at all. A conventional travel trailer connects to a ball behind the bumper of your tow vehicle, and most of the weight of the trailer rides on the trailer's own axles. Only about 10% gets transferred to the truck. We call that tongue weight, and every tow vehicle has an allowable tongue weight. A fifth wheel trailer has this front area called the upper deck that rides over the bed of the truck, and the trailer attaches to a hitch in the bed that rides directly over the axles of the truck. This allows for several things. You get a better towing experience. There are virtually no sway issues with the pivot point directly over the truck axles. You can carry more weight. Your total length driving down the road is shorter by a few feet than if you were pulling a conventional travel trailer of the same length, and the truck's axles can share more of the weight of the trailer with the trailer axles. There are two main forces we're dealing with when we're towing: the horizontal force, or how much weight the engine and transmission are pulling down the road, and then the vertical force, or how much weight is being placed on the axles, the tires, and the suspension of your truck. The allowable horizontal force determines your truck's tow capacity, and that vertical force determines your payload rating. The attachment point of a fifth wheel is called the kingpin. The kingpin is a steel pin that extends below the trailer's upper deck from a pin box and connects to the fifth wheel hitch in the bed of the truck. The amount of vertical load pushing down on that kingpin and transferred through the hitch into the truck is your pin weight. And it's the most important thing we're concerned with when we're trying to figure out if a truck has the payload rating to be able to handle your fifth wheel. When you go to the website of an RV manufacturer, you'll see each model will have listed an unloaded vehicle weight, or UVW, and a pin weight, or it might be called a hitch weight. Same thing. This is our Sabre 37 RV Miles fifth wheel, and these are the weights of the units as they come off the line from the manufacturer without any of your stuff in them. They actually do put them on scales and weigh them to come up with these numbers. It's really important to understand these numbers do not include all of the gear and food and clothes that you carry with you. That all adds up quickly. Cargo carrying capacity is the allowable amount of weight a trailer can carry on top of that unloaded vehicle weight. It's the amount of all your gear and stuff you can bring with you. Gross vehicle weight rating for your fifth wheel trailer, or GVWR, which isn't listed on this webpage, but you can find it on a sticker on the RV, is a combination of the unloaded vehicle weight and the cargo carrying capacity. It's the maximum amount your trailer can weigh loaded down with cargo. So, how do we find out if a truck can tow this trailer? Well, first off, we need to know how much weight we're going to need to carry. This isn't really telling us that. Unfortunately, unloaded vehicle numbers aren't going to help us. And that hitch weight or pin weight listed on the RV manufacturer's website is an unloaded number. So, how do we know how much weight we're going to carry in the bed of the truck? How much payload capacity we're going to need? Unfortunately, we have to do a little math and we have to guess a little. When an RV manufacturer builds a fifth wheel, they design the floor plan, and then the engineers take all the estimated weights of the walls and cabinets and appliances and roof, everything, and they determine where to put the axles. It's like a giant seesaw, right? So they're going to move that axle to the perfect location to get about 80 to 85% of the trailer's weight onto the axles of the trailer itself, while the pin transfers the rest to the bed of the truck. They usually end up with a pin weight somewhere between 15 and 20%. So when you look at the unloaded weight of the Sabre 37 RV miles, it's 13,183 pounds. The hitch weight is 2,235 pounds. If I go to percentagecalculator.net, which incidentally is a website I use all the time, even though I kind of sort of know how to do percentage calculations, it's just super easy. You do you though. I can quickly plop those two numbers in and find that this unit hovers right at 17% of the weight on the pin unloaded. So that's not going to be loaded though, but I can take that 17% number and apply it to the GVWR, the total weight rating, and assume that the actual pin weight loaded will be 2,760 pounds if I load the trailer to capacity and if I load the trailer evenly. That second one is a big if, because guess what? The kitchen, all the exterior storage, and the water tanks are all forward of the axles on this unit, and they are on most units. So if I did load to 3,000 pounds plus, it's very likely that my pin weight would be even higher. But look, we're trying to get the best estimate here because we won't know our real pin weight until we're loaded down and go weigh the thing. So what I'm going to do is give myself a little cushion, and what I suggest most people do is just plan on the hitch weight being 20% of the GVWR. So this is real easy to do. When you're looking at fifth wheels on a website or in person, take the GVWR, which again, if they don't list it on the website, it's the cargo carrying capacity plus the unloaded vehicle weight rating. Add those two together, you're going to get the GVWR, or look on the sticker on the side of the vehicle, gross vehicle weight rating. Add those two together, and then you take 20% of that, and you're going to come up with an estimated pin weight. So for us, that's going to be 3,247 pounds. So it's significantly more than if I put in 17%. My truck, which is an F350 crew cab, single rear wheel, 4x4 long bed diesel, all of those things really do play into payload, has a maximum payload capacity of 4,370 pounds. You can find that on a sticker inside the driver door jamb. But you also have to subtract anything you add to the truck, including passengers, towing equipment like the hitch, and any gear in the bed of the truck. If you don't have a truck yet, you might be thinking, do I need a half-ton truck, a three-quarter-ton truck, a one-ton truck, a dually? Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that because different truck configurations weigh different amounts. A crew cab 4x4 truck is going to have less payload than a standard cab two-wheel drive truck, even though they're both F350s, because there's less weight on the truck to start with. A diesel engine can tow more than a gas engine, but a gas engine is going to give you more payload because the diesel engine weighs so much more. And therefore, everything being heavier, you'd think a long bed truck would have less payload than a short bed truck because the bed weighs more, but the longer wheelbase actually improves your payload. You have to look at the individual truck with all the options and see what the payload is going to be. Luckily, truck manufacturers are starting to make this stuff slightly easier. I know Chevy's been doing better towing stickers in the truck. I'm a Ford owner, so I'm going to give you my truck as an example. I can now go to Ford's website and there's a towing calculator. It's a little hard to find, so I'll link to it in the description. And other manufacturers have versions of this, but it shows my specific truck, my VIN number, my specific truck's gross vehicle weight rating, which is the max the truck can weigh. Just like the trailer, the gross vehicle weight rating of the truck is the unloaded weight or the curb weight plus payload capacity. That's the gross. That's the amount it can weigh. It also shows the maximum gross combined weight rating, which is the max the truck and the trailer can weigh together. And it shows my max payload. And then it has fields for added weight, and I can configure this. So I'm going to go to the bottom of the screen here, click the configure button, and I can put in the weight of the occupants. Let's say my family weighs 800 pounds altogether. I don't usually carry too much cargo in the truck, but let's say another 200 pounds. And then accessories would be anything that's semi-permanent on the truck that you've added, like racks or a new heavy off-road bumper. And particularly for most fifth wheel owners, a hitch. Our hitch weighs 122 pounds. So I put all that in and it spits me back to the main page. And if I make sure to have fifth wheel selected, it gives me a max tongue load, which is pin weight, and a max trailer weight. So with my configuration, I'm allowed 3,248 pounds tongue load, which is exactly 1 pound less than my estimated pin weight. Now, normally I'd be concerned that that's cutting it a little too close, but this fifth wheel has a great cargo carrying capacity, and I'm never going to be putting that much weight into it as we're no longer full-time RVers. But a lot of people will, and a lot of people want a bigger truck. A lot of people will want a dually with this setup, but we're not going to need it because I'm not going to load it anywhere near that close. And this is where sometimes people can get into some trouble and can cause some frame damage, especially if they don't load all of that weight evenly. A lot of frame issues happen in that pin box area, which is under extreme forces as it goes down the road. Also, the transition from that upper deck to the lower deck is a big weak point. So you might have 3,000 pounds of cargo carrying capacity allowed by your manufacturer, but if you place all that weight in the front, you're asking for problems. Our friend JD over on the Big Truck, Big RV channel is on a mission to get fifth wheel manufacturers to be more specific about cargo weights, perhaps giving you max loads for certain areas. And I think he's right, because you're never going to get around the fact that this front section of a fifth wheel, the upper deck, is going to be a weak point. And as I said before, most of the cargo storage in most fifth wheels is in this area, and most water tanks are forward of the axles as well. Water weighs 8 1/3 pounds per gallon. So a 60-gallon water tank weighs 500 pounds full. And then some people like to go out and get more water. So you're boondocking in the middle of nowhere. You take a full 500-pound tank down a washboard road. You get to your campsite, and then you use all that water, which really just moves it to your black and gray tanks, right? And then you go out and get more water with your truck with a water bladder or jugs, and you add those into your trailer. And now you've got 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds of water weight in your tanks that you're going to carry back over that washboard road with all your other gear, riding over that weak point on the frame. Bottom line, you need to give yourself room and flexibility for more weight. Load your weight evenly and know how you're going to use it and what stresses those uses might cause. But we've gotten a little off course. This is about pairing a truck with a trailer. So here are a few other things we need to be concerned about. We need to make sure that we're not over the axle rating on the truck. That's also going to be marked on your vehicle's door sticker. We want to make sure we don't have too much weight on that rear axle. And we want to make sure that we're under the load rating on the truck's tires. Those things should be fine as long as you're within your payload and you haven't changed the load rating of your tires, but you should check them anyway to be sure. And we're going to do all of that after we purchase the fifth wheel, after we load it with all the gear that we want, all the propane and water, and take it to get weighed. You want to go find a CAT scale. These are at lots of truck stops. Don't be afraid of them. I suggest you download the app, and then you can avoid going in and getting a weigh ticket and paying and all that. All you have to do is pull onto the scale. Your truck's steer axle will be on one section of the scale. There's yellow lines, and your rear axle will be on another, and your trailer's axles will be on a third section of the scale. You pay in the app, usually around $12, and it'll spit back the weights on each of those sets of axles. You want to make sure that both of the truck's axles are under the axle rating listed on the sticker inside your vehicle door jamb, and that the total weight on the truck, the steer axle and the drive axle combined, doesn't exceed your truck's allowable gross vehicle weight rating, which is also on the sticker. If the weight of the truck is under your gross vehicle weight rating, you are good on Payload. Because remember, the gross vehicle weight rating is the curb weight plus the allowable payload. You also want to make sure that the total weight of the truck and trailer combined together, that's the gross weight at the bottom of that printout, is under your truck's gross combined weight rating, the GCWR. You then want to go and disconnect your trailer and then come back around and weigh just the truck. Usually the second weigh is free or it's like $3. You can then subtract different sets of numbers to find out how much weight is being added by the trailer to the truck and how much the trailer weighs itself loaded down with all your stuff. That way you can find out if you need to rebalance where things are loaded, and you can find out if the trailer is above its GVWR and if you need to shed some weight. You can even go to some RV shows or rallies, and there are companies that will weigh each individual tire to help you find out if you're too heavy on one side or another. All in all, just try not to cut it close. You can estimate and give yourself room and weigh to make sure. Even though being right at your towing capacity or payload capacity might be legal and allowable by the engineers, your trailer will ride a lot better and you'll have less wear and tear on your suspension if you give yourself maybe a 20% cushion. A 12-ounce glass of water will fit 12 ounces, but it holds 10 a lot more reasonably. The same applies here. Our truck is about as close as you can get to that expected payload. But since I have experience in this and I know the amount of cargo we've had in our other RVs in the past, because I've done all this and I've done all the weighing, I know that my pin weight will actually be well under 3,000 pounds. And if it's not, I'll adjust accordingly by removing some gear and loading things differently. But I'm not concerned about it at all in our case. But you might not have that experience. And if you don't want to think about all that, well, you're just going to need a bigger truck. Now, in the description, I'm going to link to a towing calculator that I found useful. If your truck manufacturer doesn't provide one, or frankly, if you just want to use a more useful tool, the one nice thing about the ones that the truck manufacturers' websites have is that they already list the weights of your specific truck. Otherwise, I find at least Ford's to be not the best option. You still have to do a little bit of figuring beyond what they put on there. This one I found is at towcalculator.app, A-P-P. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments and I'll try to help out, or other folks in the community might as well. Thanks so much for being here. If you got something out of this content, consider becoming a Mile Marker member. It's our paid support community, $7 a month, $70 a year. You get extra little bonus features like some fun little podcasts from Abby and I. You get a weekly email from me that has lots of news story roundups and more. Abby and I really appreciate all of our Mile Marker members. They make this content possible. If you got something out of this video, hit the like button. If you want more like it, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.